It was a demand that was made by the Congress party in the Jaipur Chintan Shivir. It found place in the Jaipur Declaration. 30 years ago, Mrs. Indira Gandhi set up NABARD, the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, in order to provide full support for agriculture and rural development activities, and the Congress party felt that the time is ripe for a similar institution to promote women's self-help groups, women enterprises, women businesses. The finance minister has listened to the demand. The initial share capital is 1,000 crores, which will enable a lending of about 8,000 or 9,000 crores. Right now, most of the lending from banks for women's self-help groups, 80% of the lending is restricted to the 4 states of Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala. And the new institution is required to promote financial linkages with women SHGs, particularly in the northern and eastern part of the country. So it's a huge step forward.
So, but where will the money come from? You yourself have said.
From the budget, no? It will come from the budget. Where is it going to come from? It's not going to come from trees. It's not going to fall from heaven. The finance minister has said that there will be an initial capital of 1,000 crores. It is going to be provided from the budget.
Sir, instead of announcing new schemes, don't you think that the focus also should be on outcomes? What are the achievements?
Of course. The finance minister has not announced any new schemes, barring the new bank for women's self-help groups and the new Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana for upgradation of rural roads. He has not announced any major new schemes, small initiatives here and there he has announced. By and large, the focus has to be on consolidation. It has to be on ensuring outcomes and ensuring that you spend the money that has been allocated to you, but spend it wisely, transparently, and in a manner that enhances public accountability.
So before we go for more funds and more schemes, shouldn't there be an audit of the existing schemes?
Sure, no doubt. I mean, audit is an ongoing exercise. There is both a concurrent audit, there is a post-implementation audit. So all these things are these are obvious things. There's nobody can deny the need for better outcomes. And I think, but there are also areas where we new schemes. You need new pension schemes. You need new social insurance schemes. The finance minister has spoken about extending the benefits of pensions and health insurance, maternity benefits to workers in the unorganized sector. So there you need new schemes.
So the big story in rural development seems to be the fact that you had been allocated over 70,000 crores, but you have not been able to spend more than 55,000 crores. So it is not a question of more funds, but the story has been that RD ministry has not been able to spend the allocated funds.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's not a story, it's a reality that we were allocated 74,000 crores and we could not, our revised estimate, which is a reasonable estimate of the actual expenditure, would be closer to 55,000 crores. And the most important reason for that is that the administrative capacity of the states determines to the extent to which the funds are going to be spent. And we are pushing a lot of rural development funds into the poorer states, into the backward states of eastern India and of northern India, where the administrative capacity is weak compared to the southern states or the western states. So there's no, I cannot deny the fact that our actual expenditure is much lower than what the expenditure that has been allocated to us, and it's a constant battle to improve the expenditure capacity, the absorption capacity, the implementation capacity, and also improve and reform our own procedures in the central government to ensure that funds are not delayed, that funds flow to the state governments on time. So we need to follow both these approaches in order to ensure greater utilization of the funds that are allocated to us.
So as Rural Development Minister, do you feel unhappy about the fact that the money has not been spent, even though there's so much, it needs to be spent, which is why it is there, and would you take responsibility?
Of course I have to take responsibility, but I cannot evade the responsibility for it, but in our constitutional scheme of things, the central government provides the funds. We audit the funds. We sanction the money, we audit the money, we monitor how it's spent, but the actual spending, the giving out of contracts, the starting of works, is all the responsibility of the state governments. We had 24,000 crores for building rural roads. The states could not spend more than 10,000 crores. Now, sure, I take the responsibility for it, but I don't tender out for the works. I don't appoint the contractors. I don't actually start building the roads. I can only provide the money. I can only audit the money. So this is a joint responsibility, and I'm not shirking my responsibility. And as I've said, to the extent that our own procedures need to be reformed and changed in order to expedite fund releases, we will do it ruthlessly. And I've made this point to the Prime Minister and to the Finance Minister repeatedly. But the fundamental reality is that the states have to substantially increase their absorptive capacity, and they have to bring a far greater degree of professionalism into the implementation of these programs.
Sir, as election draws closer, would there be more pressure on Mr. Chidambaram, especially probably even from the National Advisory Council, to announce more social sector schemes?
Well, you have to ask either the National Advisory Council or Mr. Chidambaram for an answer to that question.
Would the government and the party back him fully when he talks about fiscal discipline?
Well, you'll have to ask the party. I'm not speaking for the party, I'm not speaking for the government. All I can speak for is the Ministry of Rural Development. And all I can say is that the Finance Minister has been given the fiscal situation that the country faces, given the extraordinarily perilous situation of public finances, the fact that he's been able to find 80,000 crores as a budgetary allocation for rural development speaks volumes of the priorities of this government and of the Congress party.
So environmental clearances have often been held up as the villain of the growth story. It happened during your tenure, it has happened during the tenure of Jayanti Natarajan.
This interview is on the budget and rural development, not on environmental clearances.
So now, do you believe that in the present economic scenario, the focus should be more on growth and not doling out schemes or more SOPs?
No, I think the Finance Minister was very, very clear that we have to get the economy back on an 8% growth trajectory. And if you're not going to be on an 8% growth trajectory, you're not going to have, the resources required for all your social welfare programs. So I think we've had a temporary blip. We've had an 8% growth over a 11th plan period, but we've had a temporary blip in 2012-13. We hope to get back, as the Finance Minister said, to 6% plus next year, and hopefully the year after that we get into 7.5% to 8%. But we also have to keep the growth inflation balance. We don't want to overheat the economy. We don't want to rush into a 9% growth and stoke inflationary fears and expectations as well. So I think 8% growth with little to moderate inflation.
So when you have ambitious schemes like the food security bill, and you would need to spend at least 1,20,000 crores on that, and then you have other major schemes like NREGS and social sector schemes, so you're spending a lot of money on that. So should the focus be more on subsidies, or should it be on growth, or should it be balanced?
I think the subsidy, no doubt about it, the subsidies have to be targeted. Subsidies have to go to the sections of society which need the subsidies. Fuel subsidies are perverse subsidies. They are not enjoyed by people who really need the subsidies. I'm glad that the Finance Minister has increased the tax on SUVs. A good example for subsidy, diesel subsidy being enjoyed by sections of society that can afford to pay more. So I think we must have a ruthless approach on subsidies. It should not be open-ended. It cannot be perverse. It has to be focused on vulnerable groups, disadvantaged groups which require the subsidies, whether it's fuel subsidy, whether it's food subsidy, whether it's fertilizer subsidy, or whether it's educational subsidy. I mean, the middle class enjoys a huge educational subsidy. When was the last time fees in Delhi University were raised? That's a middle class subsidy. Unfortunately, there are many subsidies in our country that are enjoyed by the relatively better off sections of society, and those are the types of subsidies that we need to review.